Alright, so in this lighting video, we will be discussing the point light. So I guess we should just get started by pressing Shift A and adding in a light and the point light. So hopefully you've already downloaded this scene. It's available for you to download, just something that I put together very quickly. So if we go into rendered view, we should see that the point light is already working in our scene. There is nothing else in the scene besides the point light, and there is a very low world setting. So what is the point light? The point light is an omnidirectional light, meaning that it gives out light in all directions, 360 degrees, so that it can illuminate the entire scene. So right now our point light is very low, and what we can do is just increase the strength to something like a 200 and just see how that looks. And as you can see, we have the circular lighting from the center of our scene, which we can move around and manipulate in whatever way we want. So there are a few settings for the point light, as you can see. So we have the color, we have the power, which we just changed, and then we have a few other settings. So the fuse is pretty much how far the light goes, kind of, I would say. Specular is like the amount of reflections. So as you can see, when I bring down the specular to 0, the gold is pretty much non-existent, or it's very hard to see because it doesn't release any specular light. However, with the cloth material on the left-hand side, where the roughness is quite high, this isn't affected too much because this isn't a specular material. Specular materials will reflect specular reflection. Or, specular materials will reflect specular light. So that's why when we change the specular, it pretty much reduces the lights being reflected off of the gold and off of the, I would say this is the rubber material. And then for volume, volume is something that is mainly dealt in volumetric, so we can't really see anything, especially as we are using Eevee render engine. So alongside this, we have the the radius. So pretty much how far the light kind of travels. So as you can see, the larger we make the radius, the dimmer the overall scene is, but that means that more light is getting to these areas outside of our range. However, if we concentrate the radius of our point light to something very small, we get a very intense bright light. And let's say I wanted to bring it to this object here, you can see that it shines extremely harshly against it because it's such a bright light condensed into a small area. So let me just bring up the radius to a 1 or so. I think that's a bit big. I think it's like 0.5 by default, something like that. Anyway, so that is the point light. It's actually quite a good general lighting tool that you can use. So let's say if we wanted to illuminate the entire scene, what we could do is just have a few point lights to help us light everything. So maybe I have a backlight here to light, this general area. I have one at the front, and this time I'll increase the strength to like a 500. We don't want harsh reflections, so what we can do is just move the point lights away from the rest of the scene, and then we'll have one more kind of hovering above everything, and I'll turn the radius up even more just so that we have a bit more, I'll say just softer reflections and softer shadows. So this is one way that you can light your scene, and obviously like with any other lights in Blender, you can actually change the color. So let's just say that we wanted this to be like a, I don't know, blue color. As you can see, that actually works quite nicely, especially against the white in the scene. Let me just go into this view here and change this maybe to like an orange. Let's see if we can get any type of contrast. Not too much. You can just about make out the reflections or the highlights along the edges of this monkey here. But yeah, that's just how you play around with the point lights. Hopefully this gives you a good idea of how you can use point lights to illuminate your scene in Blender. In the next video, we will be going over the sunlight.